Sooners of Oklahoma at 12-0 and still looking for respect nationwide.
What is going on, Sooner Nation? Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Barry and Mack Show. As always, myself, Barry, personal trainer, sports performance coach out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And alongside me tonight, former Sooner wide receiver, 2000 national champ, Mr. Damian Mackey. How are we doing tonight, D-Mac?
Got a little pep in my step tonight. You know what I'm saying? We got a W today. Boys got a win against the Sisters of the Poor, Handkerchief University of the Blind and Deaf Junior College. But that's okay. We'll take a dub any way we can get them.
That's right, man. Yeah, at this point in the year, you got 5 wins. You got to get one more. Teams have gone to bowl games with 5 wins. Being Oklahoma, maybe they got that foot in the door, but it's also like, man, you do want to go to the bowl game. I won't say you don't want to, but
yes, you do.
There is something about like you got there on 5 wins. But you're right. It is still extra practices. It's extra time with the coaches. So you are right. It is a benefit. And if any of you saw it, OU went out there. They mollywopped Maine. For about the first 5 minutes, it was interesting. It felt like the team it felt like similar to how the games have felt a lot this year, where the offense came out and they were sleepwalking a little bit. But it felt like Joe John Finley made a concerted effort to lean on the run game. They got it going with Barnes. And really that run, D-Mac, and we'll talk about the offense in detail, but the Barnes run felt like it took the lid off for the offense. Like they went like a sigh of relief of, man, we finally got a big play, because later on they end up setting wasn't a record, but it's been the longest pass play in, I want to say, since 95.
95.
There you go. So 95, which was the 90-yard scramble drill down the right sideline that Arnold threw to J.J. Hester. And a lot of guys got playing time today. You got to see more of Michael Hawkins. But I think the first thing I want to start, D-Mac, is just kind of the overview of this game before we go offense and defense, because we'll talk about the good and the bad. And there was some bad. There was a lot more good, granted, obviously, who they're playing, right? This was a game they should have looked like this, and they did. And you had youngsters making plays all over the field. But for you as a player never had this mid-season cupcake. This is a new SEC thing, right? You might have had Baylor, right? But who was really the Big 12 get you right game back in the day. But you didn't have a true FCS cupcake opponent. There was very little challenge at every single position. So what value does this provide this Sooner team offensively and defensively, if you're looking big picture?
You know, I'll say this, the SEC does it correct. You know, how many years have we labored about the fact that as you get closer to the end of the year, and some years our team was beat up, right? And you see Bama comes to mind, LSU comes to mind in some years, and then obviously more recently UGA comes to mind, where it's week 9 and we're playing against Okie State, or we're playing against K-State, or we're playing against whoever, right? And then you got Bama versus, you know what I'm saying, Arky State, you know, or you know. And so I think that's very wise, right? When you have a very formidable schedule, you're playing against a lot of contenders every single week. By the way, South Carolina is giving A&M all they can handle. Not surprised. I know A&M took the lead. That quarterback A&M had it salty, but it's good for the team, right? A lot, you know, I sent a post on Twitter today. I don't say X, I say Twitter. I put a post on Twitter and I said, you know, what's the biggest thing you want to see the team improve? And a lot of people said O-line, and obviously that's the easy one, right? A lot of people say DBs or corners, right? That's another one where we've seen, and we're going to talk about that because we see some puppies playing ball. But listen, those of you who have played this game, and I don't want to like qualify myself over and beyond other folk because I haven't played the game in 25 years or since 2001. But there's just something about getting confidence. There's just something about remembering how fun the game is and taking the pressure and the anxiety off of yourself in a game like this, right? I'm here to tell you, as as concerning as the offensive line is, which we're going to discuss. I saw some things that even though we covered some stuff up, there were some things that really concern me, and I saw some really, really good things that it's going to be interesting to see what the coaches do. The
Mhm.
running backs, right? Obviously, Javonte played his best game of his career. He looked like he was running with his eyes open. He ducked and dodged into holes, played physical. He got small. He ran through trash. He showed us his 4.58 40, right? Um,
It's not a pod without some Javante disparagement.
Come on, dog. You gotta get them knees up and score that damn touchdown. How dare you? How dare you?
Oh
Anyway,
my
nah, kid
gosh.
played well. Kid played well. You can't
Yeah,
if that's all
really
I can
well.
say. But here's the bigger thing. This week, the guys remembered that football is fun. This week, the guys remembered that they're actually good. This week, the guys remembered what it felt like to dominate. And I'm just telling everybody, like, that matters. And to have a game week 9, I think this is week 9, have a game week 9 or week 10, I know we had a bye, where you're able to run your stuff. There were plays to be had on the inside zone. There were plays to be had on the edges, right? Jackson connected on some intermediate stuff. It connected on some outside the number stuff, and obviously connected on a big play. Those things carry over. Those things have the intangible. We call it a residual impact. Okay, and seeing us experience that going into the final 3 games of the season, and I think it's important that we play Mizzou first. One, because we need Cook to be
Mm,
still dealing with his injuries, right? And that way, we've got them in an opportune situation. And then 2, it's a winnable game. If we win that game, all of a sudden the Bama game's a big game. If we win that game, all of a sudden that Bama game is a big game. And so I look at this game. We're obviously going to break down the position groups. We're going to talk about who played well and what we noticed. There's some very distinct things that I posted on Twitter immediately. They scrapped the hodgepodge. They scrapped it. They went 100% to last year's offense. We ran last year's offense the entirety of this game. And I think that was
mm.
important to do because we identified our identity. We told everybody the remainder of this year, this is us, beat us. And so that was cool to see. But listen, man, I'm gonna enjoy today. We got the dub, and we haven't gotten dubs in the month. I don't think we got any other dubs in October, if I remember correctly.
Brother.
or
No.
Auburn. I think Auburn was like right at the beginning. Um, Good to get the dub. Feels good.
Yeah, and we'll go offense first, man, because they put up some points today. I feel like we owe it to them. The defense only allowed 14, 50, and it's a better performance. And Maine isn't to the level of Houston. We've seen Houston go out there and play K-State. Now, Houston ended up not being a bad team.
Yep.
They're a solid football team for the Big 12, right? Tulane, obviously, we knew what that one was going to be. And OU played a little bit better in that. And they performed better in this one than they did against Temple. The young guys, and the reason I want to go O-line first is because I did post some things over on X for people to take a look at. The big thing that I've already seen questions come in on was some of the young guys, D-Mac, have a little bit of nasty to them. And we've said that all year, right? Well, what I said, OU has not played physically, a brand of physical football since 2017. Said it on the last pod. EPL comes in, and I'm not saying personal fouls are a good thing. And he belly flopped, dude, as Data Kyle points out on X earlier today. But he is finishing the play,
Yep.
which you said early on this year that was something that was missing. That was they were just doing their job good enough. Be like, all right, coach, got the check. I'm good. Instead of finishing, EPL was finishing. Isaiah Autry-Dent, I thought gave them the best snaps at right. There was some bad. He got mulled over a few times and got taken to the woodshed. But in pass blocking, it's the
Yep.
best OU has looked pass blocking on that right side all year. In fact, if you'll notice, they ran to the left side early on in the game a lot. All of Javante's big runs, if I'm not mistaken, were to the left. They
Yep.
really focused on putting that there. Later in the game, you had a few more things go to the right side when you had Dent and EPL feeling like they were getting a little bit of traction. And the O-line seemed to play well. Howland some of his mistakes still showing up, and I want to get your thoughts on that. Just the footwork and some of the other things. Center is still a position that they have got to shore up in a hurry. That is probably a transfer portal thing this coming year where they have got to get better there, especially if Hickman can't put on the size or get the girth needed to handle some of these big guys. But man, thoughts on offensive line, and then we'll go to running backs.
Work in progress. Obviously, 2 steps in the right direction. I was going to speak to Autry, and his pass pro was really good. Like he has longer limbs and has the ability to get distance. And when you see Brown come in, by the way, people have been telling us not to use numbers, so I'm going to do my best. If you know,
Yeah,
you
I'm
know.
done.
I'm a numbers guy. I've been a numbers guy for 10 years. Partially, by the way, people, sometimes I do numbers because if I'm going to critique or say some type of criticism, I don't want to say the kids' names. But we are in the NIL era, so I understand. But anyway, back to Autry. He's got a base. Kid's gonna be a starter. So long as he works hard, continues to improve. Obviously, he's gonna have to get stronger. Obviously, continue to work on your athleticism, but the natural ability to get into position is there. Let me speak to someone again. I like to speak to folks that everyone else doesn't see. And by the way, I'm not Gabe. I'm not an O-line expert. I'll run circles around everybody with like pass schemes and all that stuff. I'm not an O-line, but I kind of know the kind of know O-line too.
Sure.
Ozita was getting on the second level. If you go watch early in the game, and salute to Joe John for running some schemes. It always irked me to see our offensive line come off the ball, and I never see guys immediately covering up backers. It pissed me off. Like, and I never would publicly say it because I get it. We're a zone scheme where everybody's moving, or we were a zone scheme. Excuse me. But go watch I missed like the first 5 minutes. I couldn't find the damn game. I've got YouTube TV. So I'm like, where the hell is the
Oh,
game? And then
yeah.
it was on ESPN Plus. I was like, wait a minute. It said it was on the SEC network. Da, 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 da. Well, I find it, right? I find it like 5 minutes in. I think I missed our first possession. It's our second possession. And they're clearly running some gap stuff because Ozita's going on the second level and he's climbing on the backer. And it just like you said, it just reminded me of like yesteryear. It reminded me of Baker years, where like our guys could go gobble up guys. And here I am comparing, you know, Sisters of the Poor, Handkerchief High School versus Baker and those guys doing it against everybody. But I am saying that's a step in the right direction. But I liked what I saw from Ozita in terms of run blocking. I think EPL stole the show. Guys, go watch the film. That was not
Oh
the only
man.
play. It was not. By the way, there was
No.
not just two of them. There were plenty of the main defenders were going to the refs tattletelling. And that's what you need, right? And I'm going to talk about that on defense too. But if you go watch when EPL gets in the game, some of their defenders are more concerned around tattletelling to the ref than lining up and playing football, and that's an advantage. We got a 15-yard penalty. By the way, salute to Jackson for overcoming it. That was a good job by the offense of getting the first. But that's one where Mizzou's going to watch film and be like, let me see if that puppy come in. But if he comes in and can show that level of physicality against Mizzou, those guys ain't gonna forget that. Guys, we watch film.
No.
You watch every play. By the time you play the game, oh, that guy's kind of lazy. Oh, that guy plays through the whistle. Let me give you an example. We play K-State. I always bring up K-State, right? Because to me, K-State was the most difficult game I played in college. K-State in Manhattan. Cooper, McGraw, Jeremitrius Butler, Kelly, Fada Fahey. I mean, I could name them. Semino. I mean, they had dudes, like NFL dudes. All those guys that I named played in the NFL for a long time. I didn't name anybody who just got a cup of coffee. Well, it's K-State week. I'm a slot. This is my sophomore year. And they've got John McGraw and Cooper. Both are all conference safeties. And Roy told the story of how, Mike would always tell him Cooper's better than him, right? And then Roy
Oh
said,
yeah.
I had to prove, right? Yeah. So there it is,
Yeah.
right? Well, if you watch film on Cooper, he's dirty. Guy's dirty. He doesn't just play through the whistle. He's cheap. He's late. He's gonna try. He's gonna pinch you the whole nine. Cooper's dirty. And by the way, 6'3", 220. I mean, a big, fast dude. He doesn't have good hips though. Didn't have good hips. But we're in the game. I get a screen. I catch the ball. I go out of bounds, and 2 seconds late hits me. And salute to Josh Norman, because Josh Norman, boom, gave him and told him.
Ooh.
But my point is, that was his position, not just in the sense of the position he played, but like he was their boogeyman, right? It was his job to distract other teams and have guys be more concerned about his physicality than being a player. And so when I see EPL, you get a little reminiscent of Orlando Brown. You get a little reminiscent of what's my man from Cali, San Ramon Valley High School. Started with the F. What's my guard? Right guard. Man, he played in the league for a while too. Same old
Ford,
line.
Cody Ford.
Not Ford.
Oh,
Samir.
not Ford. Drew
Drew
Samia.
Samir.
Drew
Oh,
Samia.
those
Yeah.
guys played through the whistle.
Yeah.
And if you do it correctly, the refs will let you get away with a little bit. And so I look at that. Those are things that they're going to watch on film, and he's going to get an attaboy. You know, if they're still doing crunch bars, he'll get a crunch bar for it. I think he'll have to get on the Stairmaster. You know, usually if you get a personal foul, dead ball personal foul, or after the play personal foul, there's some type of consequence. For us, we had to do like 15 minutes of Stairmaster. But I think at the same time, Beating Bo is going to use that as film to say to older guys, hey guys, watch this young kid. You think he's excited to play? You think he wants to wear Oklahoma uniform? You think he's dying to get more playing time? He's definitely going to use that to his advantage. And so just some names to throw out there. By the way, Everett, there's a massive difference when Everett's in versus Hickman. And
100%.
you said it, and I never really tripped because O-line, right? Whatever, right? I got love for those guys, but I'm not really sweating it like that. Substantially smaller. In my opinion, Hickman is just not SEC big enough. He looks like a guy who could be the Maine center, the center for the University of Maine, versus Everett. Everett got a little banged up, and you saw he was big, burly, barrel chest guy. Like, okay, that looks like a Creed Humphrey, a great value version. And so I know, my bad. That sounded bad. My bad. I just didn't want to compare him to Creed. But no, I don't want to create false hope. I don't want to get overly excited. What I will say is the task at hand, they were able to accomplish what they needed to accomplish, and we were able to see some of the young pups go in and have some success.
Yeah, the EPL to me stands out as a guy who that's the type of thing that earns you playing time. That's the stuff that we saw from Savion Byrd that we would say, man, that he's got the juice, but he just didn't quite have all the other stuff to stay in the game.
Yeah.
EPL looks to possibly have that. Great. Just mentioning Ozeta, he did have a really solid game as well. To me, the feet difference from Autry Dent to Brown is like it's not even close. And length, obviously.
Yep.
So Isaiah's issue when he arrived on campus was he was very light. He looked darn near like a tight end, right? Arriving very similar to Logan Howland's build. And Logan just hasn't played the position as long as Isaiah has. They all were projects, which to me, maybe that's the thing that depending on who comes to OU as OC, maybe they look at that and they look at Fasusi coming in and they give Beanbo one more shot. I know some fans wouldn't like that. Some fans would, but maybe there is some logic to there are some guys in the cupboard who are growing and building, like an Autry Dent, like an EPL, who look the part, right? You still got other guys over there. You got Eugene Brooks, who is another player of the same ilk as EPL. But it all affected the running backs, D-Mac. Barnes goes over 200. I lose my stake bet from Taylor Tatum. Had the stake bet. So Barnes goes over 200. He gets 203. They take him out I think he got maybe one more possession right after he got the 200, and then they pulled him. Then you had 21. Xavier Robinson get a lot of play, and he looked really good as well. He's trimmed down. I said that when he was coming out, he had to lose weight and get more explosive, and he absolutely did that, man. He looked a little bit like a great value Samaje Perine. That's there you go. And nothing wrong with great value, man. Great value sometimes has some great.
It's a great value.
That's right. But that being said, he looked good. Franklin came in there. He got a lot of playing time. We did see Tatum. He goes in there, gets the score. The running back position, they all kind of got to flourish. D-Mac, Venable said it post-game, first time they've gotten 400 yards of rushing in a very long time in that stadium. Even in the Lincoln Riley era, 400 was not something. They'd have a lot of like 250 and 350, 300 and 300, but not a 400-yard game, with Jackson also having a very efficient 250-yard passing day. And we'll get to Jackson. But talk about the running backs, how that feels for a back, what type of confidence you get. Because I posted, Javonte Barnes ran with confidence. He ran like a guy who felt like he could make guys miss in the open field. And maybe that's what the team has seen in practice that we've been skeptical on, because we've watched him run, and it was almost like in these big games, he's running nervous or running with some hesitancy. He's just not committing one way or the other. That first big run, man, he went through the hole and he ran like a guy who knew he was going to go score. And that's huge. That is the type of play that translates to next week when he gets matched up, squared up on a safety again. And it's not just some cutback off the flare screen. You're talking about squaring a guy up and shaking him to get into the end zone. Those are plays that make a difference because you don't have to snap the ball again. You are scoring. You are taking the life out of that team. It is effective on multiple levels. So talk about the running backs, D-Mac.
See, you always do that to me because he didn't score. He got tackled on the one.
Oh, that's right. He got it the one.
And he
That's
had to touch the
right.
ball.
I forgot.
And he had to touch the ball again. By the way, Jackson messes up the read. He should have pitched it. He could have walked in.
That was the
anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, he scores. He scores on second down. Or third. Yeah, on second down. Anyway, gotta give him props. Javon, here's the thing, and the people think I'm making light or making fun. I'm not. He ran with his eyes open. He ran the daylight, and that's what it means, right? It's interesting to see when the running back. You're right. That anxiety is gone. That passivity is gone, right? And you're like, I'm not scared. I'm just gonna play ball. You run to where they aren't. And he made a couple of really good jump cuts in the hole. And on the second one, I mean, he jump cut twice. He met the backer, jump cut on him, and then jump cut again, and then beat the guy to the edge. I don't think he beats an SEC D into the edge, but needless to say, for what he needed to do today, he did a great job. I just think it's gonna bear fruit for his confidence going into Mizzou. And I watched Mizzou closely the last couple of weeks. They are not South Carolina on defense. They are not Texas on defense, right? They've got a couple of junkyard dogs at the backer level. They got a couple of guys who are going to be physical and want to go up there and hit you, but like they are not overly athletic and dominating as a front. They are a front that I believe, that I hope, let me not believe, that I hope going into next week, we can play with some physicality and really impose our will running the ball. Because what I've seen, and what Joe John is really starting to manifest for us is if we can run the ball, we can do some action off of it. But back to running backs. Javonte had an A day. Salute to him for a 200-yard day. I think 2 or 3 touchdowns. He looked good doing it. I'm still going to critique getting tackled on the one. Franklin fumbles the speed option. However, listen, guy, I gotta be honest with you. He may be the best. He may be the most natural runner out of all of them, including Tatum. People won't like it. Mack, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm just telling you what my eyeballs see. He's a guy who reminds me a ton of Tyree Walker. He just looks like a Tyree Walker kind of guy. If the play's not perfect, if you go watch his touches, the plays aren't necessarily perfect, and he's getting through traffic, he's spinning, and he's making the most out of what he has. I think he just has a more physical body than Tatum right now. We'll talk about Tatum next.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean he's a lead guy. I don't want anybody to take what I'm saying to say I think he should start. I'm just saying he's a natural running back for sure. Tatum got nicked up again. You could see he was kind of pissed off. He had a running play or something, and you see him hitting the ground. He limps off. I think they tape him up, and then he comes back in, gets a couple more carries. Again, just very skilled. He's a guy who I believe if the offensive line is a plus next year, and especially in 2 years, the game's going to be easy. Like the kid understands blocking and how to get to the proper side and how to get little and how to squirt through holes. He's got a lot of natural ability. I want to see how fast he is. I want to see what happens when he gets into the second level. Can he run away from secondary guys? But Tatum again, I think he showed that he deserves to be in there. I think he's got a bad wheel, which is something that I think he's had for a couple of weeks now. So seeing him get a little upset over that, but it's good to see him fight through it. But the puppy, that's an SEC running back. What I mean by that is that's a guy you put in the game in the third quarter and you lean on people, and he's going to go. He's running. DBs are not going to arm tackle him. You're right. He's got a little Samaje in him where if he gets to that second level with some steam, he's a guy that guys are literally not going to want to come up and try to tackle. And it's going to make for him to have the ability to break more tackles. I like seeing the versatility. And so again, cautiously optimistic. I'm going to use the word hope again because it could look dramatically different against Missouri next week. I don't want to get overly excited about Handkerchief University School of the Blind Junior College A&T. I just want to pay homage and give props today. Robinson shows us that the future, along with Tatum, are both guys you can depend on. You know what else I think is important to say as you speak to running backs, Barry?
What?
I think it's safe to say Caleb Hicks is probably not going to be here next year. Good, bad, or indifferent. I've heard from people that he's a good player and he could be the lead dog. Da, 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 da. Why you hear the rumors,
Yeah,
and I've heard some
sure.
firsthand stuff. I've heard from people who watch practice every day. I think it's safe to say he's probably not going to be here, and we haven't discussed the other group yet. But unless you seemed otherwise, I think it's safe to say probably Petaway too. Right? I
Man,
just haven't seen him in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and we've seen Jacobs, and we've seen Raggins, and we've seen Kearney, and we've seen On. Right? We've seen these other young pups getting in. It's I don't know if he's hurt. Maybe he's nicked up, and we don't know any better.
maybe.
Um,
Because I'm
but
going to
yeah.
go through receptions here in just a second as we move to receivers, but you might be right on that.
By the way, I'm looking at the comments, and I'm seeing some people saying, "Guys, the kid fumbled." And you know what I'm saying? With all due respect, we've all made mistakes. Franklin's a natural runner. And Xavier is a big, burly, fast, physical dude, which we definitely got to pay props to. But he wasn't running through trash in the beginning of the game like Franklin did. And then my opinion versus your opinion. Salute to you and yours. Um, I don't think you want Franklin to be your lead dog, but I would say I felt the same way about Barnes the first 5 games of this year. And Barnes
Mhm.
has been our lead dog, and as he's gotten more confidence, he's gotten better. And I want to give props to that. But the running back group, by and large, I think probably their most successful game since BV's been the head coach. I would say even better than some of those Gray years where Gray had some pretty big games. We had long runs, we have physical runs, we've had runs through traffic, we have running to daylight. Really positive game for those guys. Looking forward to seeing what they can do against Mizzou.
Yeah, man. Let's go to receiver. I think that'll segue good into running. Segue well into running back. JJ Hester led the day, 4 catches, 112 yards, 28 average. That was a game where he looked like the biggest, most physical receiver out there, and played like it to a degree. There's probably still some hay to be made for him, and there are things just from a route running standpoint, from a creating set. I think his issue is out of his cuts, D-Mac. He's just not incredibly explosive. When he gets in and out of his breaks, he's not like a Jordan or a Burks or even a longer athletic guy like a CD or even a Jaden Gibson, where there's a little bit of explosion out of those cuts. And I think that's why he doesn't have easy separation. His separation, he gets enough, but it always looks like it's a little tougher than it needs to be. And I think if he was a little more explosive out of those breaks, it's almost like tight end movement a little bit, where it takes him a little bit to get the ball rolling right on his acceleration. He's great going forward, and he showed when he decided to take that route behind the DB where Arnold basically threw a dime to the right side. He was gone once he got the steam rolling. That speed. He's a guy who gets when he runs, unlike a Barnes, he gets faster because of that build as he's going further into it. He's the kind of guy who runs the 200 instead of the 100, right? He just has a little more oomph as he gets further down the road, but played well. Pull up the rest of these guys. Xavier Robinson, 1 catch for 46. One of those was not a rush, one of the big runs. Jacob Jordan, he got 3. Brennan Thompson, 2. Sam Franklin had a couple catches. Bauer Sharp had a couple. Caden Helms, we'll throw the tight ends in with this too. First touchdown of his career. Feels good. He suffered through a ton of injuries, guys. I know the gang at OUInsider, very happy for him. His mom, extremely happy. She was pretty loud and vocal about just seeing him have some success, regardless of who it's against. It's got to feel good for a parent to be able to see that kind of thing. And then you're right, D-Mac. Zion Kearney, Ivan Curry they get the additional receptions, and Petaway's not really there to be found. So it makes you wonder what that is. Jacob Jordan film is best. He's the best route runner on the football team right now, in my opinion. Nobody gets out of breaks more explosively than he does. Nobody drops the hips better than he does. Nobody has the feet better than he does. He has got the tools, but it was a JJ Hester day. D-Mac, give us the ins and outs of what you saw at receiver today, man.
First things first, Hester is an X. He's a plus X. I don't want to beat the kid up. He's a plus X. We've had some really good X's. CD played X for a year. Um, um, gosh, DD Westbrook played X for a year. He played Z the year he really broke out, but DD played X for a year. Jaden, obviously Nick played X, right? Together some, and then of course Andrew played X as well. So when you're looking at Hester, yeah, everybody I named is either an NFL dude or a dude who has the potential to play in the NFL. JJ's biggest issue for me is mental. It's the same thing I see for Kanai on defense. I don't think they realize the body they have, the frame they have. Like Hester does not have to be super explosive to be extremely effective as a 22-year-old grown ass man playing X. He doesn't. He does not. He has a 6'4" frame with long arms and, like you said, plenty explosive enough. I watched him on the field when they played against Houston. He's not some awkward guy trying to play receiver. He knows how to move his hands in and out of his breaks. He's not the most explosive, right? By the way, Jacobs is a 4'6", short guy. Of course they're going to be quick in and out of their cuts.
Yeah.
Just play man. That's how you shut that shit down. Put that kid in man, and
Man.
he's locked in. He's locked up. So guys have their pluses and their minuses. But back to Hester. Good for him to have a great day. Good for him to make the play when the play was there. Good for him to he's not a natural ball catcher with his hands either. He's a guy who likes to catch the ball like this versus attacking the football. It was good to see him catch. He caught a third down. It was a quick slant. The game was still tight before we got on top of them. We ran a double slant and he was the outside guy. And he caught it with his hands. He mitted it. And that was a really big moment for us because, like you said, the anxiety is still there. I think we may have even been down 7-0 at that point. I don't know if this is before or after Barnes makes his big run. But that's a big play. You catch that ball, all of a sudden the ball looks like a beach ball. I've had games where the ball just looks like a beach ball. Like, throw the ball my way and I'm going to catch it, right? And then there's other games where you see Curtis drop a ball, you see Savo drop a ball, you see Trent drop a ball. You're like, oh, shit, if they throw the ball, I better not. And then boom, you drop a ball. That's just a totally different experience. And so seeing him make that play was big. Seeing him make the big play was big, by the way. If you watch, again, I'm just one of those guys. I go back and rewind it. I know we did O-line. Brown is just see, it makes me feel crappy when I say their names instead of their numbers, right? 58's piss 58's piss poor on that play. Piss poor. By the way, the play before Bauer Sharp, Jackson almost throws a pick six. Did you see it?
I don't remember.
The
me back.
play before the 90-yard touchdown, the play before we run some type of action and we try to leak the running back and the backer spies it. And so Jackson has to hold it. But then the safety, it's either a safety or a corner is coming. He's the guy who makes the tackle. If he doesn't play the ball or play the man and he just plays the ball, it could easily be a pick six. Go watch Bauer Sharp on that play. The play before the touchdown. It drives me crazy because you need 11 guys doing their jobs in order to be successful. The guy blows the play up, thank you, Jesus. And even the commentators are, oh man, if he would just played the ball, that could have been an interception. He's absolutely right. If the guy, whoever is striking on that play, pulling the trigger, if they just play the ball, it's potentially a pick six and he's right there. But anyway, next play is a great play, but on that play, 58, come on, he's literally watching like we are in the stands. Like he's literally Jackson has to leak and he's like, I ain't got nothing for you, bro. And he's literally just watching and he watches the ball. But anyway, hey, Hester played well. I see something in Kearney 7. Let me throw some props to Jacobs. 88's playing well. Again, every team needs one. If he's your one, you're screwed.
For sure.
You're screwed.
Yeah.
But if you've got him running around and finding space in the middle of the field, here's what I will say. I don't think he's the most explosive. I don't know. I'm not in practice. But what I know is he understands coverage is the best. If you put him in his zone, he's going to get to the spot. And that's what you want your receiver to be able to do. It's not really how fast you're getting out your hips unless it's man. It's not really, you know what I'm saying? Like how far you explode and dip your shoulder and like stutter and go. Like all that is in the way the game is played today. It's get to where they're not. You have to understand coverage. You got to understand responsibilities, and then find the window. Like that. By the way, that's the game in high school. That's the game in college. That's NFL is even doing that now. It's not a 4-step slant, a 3-step out, a bang 8. Bang 8 is just an action slant. It's more so find coverage pre-snap, understand folks' responsibility, find the blitzer, and get where they're not. That's the way the game is played. It's kind of like basketball is more positionless, where there's not a true point guard who has it 90%. Receivers aren't running the slant. When I was in high school and even at OU, it was like, you've got to do a 4-step slant. Like it used to be a 4-step slant, right? Nah, bro. You get inside, you know what I'm saying? Get them here and then find the window. Find the window. The ball's coming, right? Hands up. That's the way the game is played. So Jacobs is great at that. And Jackson feels comfortable with him in that nature. I like Kearney. I think Kearney's going to be a guy next year who's going to surprise, depending on who comes back. Let me say this too. For all of the upperclassmen redshirting or whatever the hell they're doing, this is what I really appreciate about our receivers. Gibson, I don't include in this. Farouk, who I think is going to leave anyway, isn't necessarily included in this. And I would even say Andrell, he had to get his knee cleaned up again. But I like that we're moving with a responsibility to not need them if you know what I'm saying, if those guys don't come back. The goal is the guys we have here, and again, I don't want to include. By the way, did you see Gibson? He was all fired up on the sideline.
That was huge.
He had his cornrows. You can see, right? You see him in the game. He's engaged. So I think he's a guy who next year is going to be the one, depending on what happens with Nick, depending on what happens with Burks. But these young pups step up. Jackson sticks around. We address the portal and we keep our O-line class intact. There's some stuff to be excited about. I mean, we got 3 more games to play. But looking at the receivers, quality game. Salute for a 100-yard receiver. Salute for a long touchdown. A guy gets this dance in the end zone. Of course, he's rocking 13. You know what I'm saying? Now I can promote the 13 because he was looking sweet in 13 today. But really good. It's good for them. He needs to go into Mizzou. If it were me, Barry, I'd be like, okay, what Luther? That's his name? Luther Burden, something like that.
Luther Burden.
I would have to be like today, because Hester has the opportunity to do this. But if he were me, I would say for next Saturday, they're gonna have to remember my name. Like, I hope he has the mentality that says, okay, I had some success today. I had a 100-yard game today. Hey, like I'd be on Tuesday practice and Jackson, throw me the ball. I'm gonna get you a tug, bro. Hey, bro, if you throw it up, I got you. Trust me. Just give me an opportunity. I don't know if they have that type of mentality, but like that's how we were. If you watch our seasons when guys were hot, those guys got the ball. We'd be on the sideline like, bro, throw it to me again. I'm a cook. And that is I see Georgia doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like I see LSU doing that. Like, I don't know if our guys have that level of like grit. You know what I'm saying? Dog in them. And I hope he takes today. And I don't care if it's Sister of the Poor. Guys, we'd play Baylor and we would only play 2 quarters. Coach would be like, you better score because you ain't playing the 3rd quarter. Like, we already knew. So it was like, I got to get my money. And that was your opportunity to go into the bigger game, the A&Ms or the K-States back in those days, the Colorado. Colorado was a dog back in those days. And you would prepare for that game with a Baylor or with a KU, right? KU is generally not a really quality team either. So hopefully he takes, because if he's reading his newspaper clips off Handkerchief University and excited because he got 100 yards against, you know what I'm saying, the school for the blind and the poor, then he ain't supposed to be at OU. Hopefully he says, hey, Jackson, we got some chemistry, bro. You got some chemistry with Jacobs. You got some chemistry with me, bro. Throw me the ball. I'm going to make a play for you.
Well, which, I mean, against Missouri, they're going to need it. What they showed against Ole Miss, and I like what you said, Ole Miss's defense, that they talked about on the broadcast, that they have a really good defense this year. And OU moved the ball on them. Missouri does not have that level of defense that Ole Miss has. Ole Miss took Arkansas to the woodshed today. It was a rough one.
They beat the brakes off.
It was
500
not pretty.
yards, 500 passing yards, bro.
Which, by the way, I mean, look what OU did to OU has a defense that handled that offense really well. And if OU has just a couple more drives go, honestly, a couple more plays, you talked about the first year of the pod, there's 5 plays that typically win or lose you the game. especially in a contest like that. Maybe not today, but in a contest like Ole
Yeah,
Miss,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
there
In a close
were.
game. In a close game. In a close game, there's
Yeah,
five plays.
and they were massive. There were massive plays in that game, whether it be turnovers, whether it be sacks, whatever. But the game was winnable. This one's another away game where you do want to go up there with some confidence, and maybe this was the kind of game that they needed just to feel good. Say, you know what, that play works. What
Yep.
Joe John is wanting to do is working, and what we'll get to kind of what you think Joe John's philosophy is, or how he's kind of directing traffic going forward to finish out the year. You alluded to it early on, but it's the loosest that Jackson has played all season. When Jackson runs now, Jackson looks like he's running with a little bit of intent. He looks like he knows where things are going to be or not be. He has a quicker trigger getting outside the pocket, which is big. It doesn't look like he's patting the ball near as much. The pass to JJ Hester was he was quick on the trigger to get outside the pocket. He didn't hesitate. He didn't mess around. He knew on that play where his guys are likely going to be if a scramble drill is what happens. And they were both in sync, and he got the ball where it needed to be. He ends up with some good numbers. I want to say he was like 68% on the day, somewhere in that mark. He had 250 through the air. You talked about the potential pick six, but other than that, didn't have any awful, egregious mistakes. And then, as a commenter said, the Hawkins came in, and Hawkins, played pretty well. They had him running the ball a lot. The offense looked a little bit different. It was scaled back, not as many throws. But Jackson was decisive. He was intentional with where he was going. They had some plays drawn up for him to run the ball, and that's where he looks the most comfortable. I think whoever comes in as OC for next year and in the years to come, for OU to try and get where they need to be, I think in keeping Jackson, I think it almost needs to be a system where he's going to be a runner, in a sense of not just a Baker being mobile, but actually use him as a guy to get downhill, maybe score a few touchdowns in the red zone, that type of thing. So it'll be interesting to see where OU does end up going with that. But touch on quarterbacks today, D-Mac, then we'll move over to the defensive side of the ball.
JFA was the guy. I think it was really intelligent of Joe John to say, "Hey, bro, we're gonna run your offense." Right? What we saw was Seth say, "Hey, we went to a hodgepodge. We had some power stuff. We were pulling a guard some weeks. We were running this weird counter some weeks. We did sprint out sometimes, and then sometimes it was just drop back. And then, right, there were a couple games early in the year where it was just quick game. If you remember, the first two games, it was primarily just quick game. And so we didn't really have a rhyme or reason of what we were doing, why we were doing. It was very clear when I started watching the game. I said, oh, we're running our stuff from last season. Like, we literally ran our offense we ran with Dylan last year all game. And I think that's important because it provides identity. And I think it aligns with what Jackson's expectations were. I think there's something to be said about Jackson feeling like bait and switch happened, where he, right, was coming into this season and he was the backup to Dylan, who ran the offense that he knew so well from high school. Then this year, with any adversity, and listen, he pissed down his own leg against Tennessee. And he didn't do himself a ton of favors against Tulane. He didn't. And against, right, Houston, he was kind of gun shy. So I get all that happened, but it felt like there was no faith in him. And here's what it quickly came to mind. And you know this, Barry. I watch a ton of film. Jackson simply looked like he was playing that Geyer. That's what it looked like to me. It looked like they were running the stuff he ran when he was a high school kid, being the best player on the field. And I think that made him comfortable. I think you could see that Joe John committed. We ran true RPO. We ran true RPO we ran the full RPO to give it to the receiver on the edge, right? The receivers at the yard. It's like the RPO option. I mean, we ran it, and we ran some counter stuff with it, which was pretty good. It was really good to see the counter action off of that. And so I think Jackson feels like he's in a position where he can be successful. And I don't want to make excuses for the kid, but I feel like he probably felt like he was put in a situation where he could not be successful because we were not doing the things that he was told or thought or assumed, whichever one you want to say, he was going to have access to at OU. And so seeing him there is important. I want to add this. Hawkins comes in and he quickly reminds us Jackson's a threat to run, Hawkins is a beast when he runs. If you watch the play, we run zone read. Jackson keeps it. It's him in the D end, and the D end doesn't catch him. It's the play where they call horse collar and then they take it back. The
Oh,
D
that's right.
end,
Okay.
the D end is with him. I mean, like Jackson holds it, pulls it. It's him, the D end. They're both running to our sideline, and Jackson's a good enough athlete to get outside of him, and then he almost gets away. They call horse collar and then they take it away. Then you see Hawkins. Very similar scenario. They run some kind of action. Hawkins decides to keep it, and he hauls ass. The DN is not in the play, right? And so I think it's important to just speak to the fact that they both have different attributes. And everyone's like, "Duh, Mackie, you're saying the obvious." Yeah, well, again, right? We need to continue to run Jackson. QB run game is a part of the offense he needs to give us because he's a solid 4.71. He could probably run a 4.65 if he's training. He's a guy who looks like a good enough athlete that if he trained for it, he could run a 4.65, which would be really good, right? When that day comes and he wants to play on Sundays. But Hawkins is a guy who looks like he can run a 4.42. And that's a totally different level of explosion, and it's a different level of opportunity. I heard the commentator say when they spoke to BV that, hey, he told both quarterbacks, we need you. He also told both quarterbacks, I might need to play you guys any given Saturday. And so I just think BV's handling this well. I really do. I think Joe John is handling this well. If you guys go back a month, I was talking. I wasn't talking, but my opinion about Joe John wasn't very positive. But he's showing me, and I'm a person who says, hey, I get it, I see it. He's showing me a plan. He's showing me depth to the plan, and more importantly, he's showing me that he understands his players and wants to put them in ways to be confident. It's not an accident that all of a sudden Javante Barnes is playing better than he has since he was a freshman, since the spring game of his freshman year. He didn't even play that well
Oh
in any
yeah.
game. It was that spring game that he looked really good because he was an early entry. It's not an accident that all of a sudden Jackson's looking like a top shelf quarterback all of a sudden. I don't think it's an accident that some of the guys on the offensive line are doing better things because there's easier angles, or they know exactly what to do, or they consolidated some things away, or they went back to what they repped for 10 months. And so this is just right muscle memory. All those things matter. Those are the intangible components of being a leader of men, right? An offensive coordinator has to be a leader of men. He has to be a master of X's and O's. All that stuff is important. But it just seems to me like he's doing a better job, or there's more alignment between Joe John and BV than there was with Seth. And again, if anybody asks me, you know who I'm gonna be biased towards, but I gotta tell the truth. And so seeing Joe John put the offense in the position to give Jackson, I mean, Jackson made throws on the edges. Jackson made some pretty nice throws over the middle. Jackson made some intermediate throws. He could have had Brennan for 2 touchdowns, unfortunately. We talk about accuracy sometimes. There's some lack of accuracy in some respects, but there's also pinpoint accuracy in other respects. And I just think that's experience. But to me, Jackson looks like a quarterback you can win. You know what I'm saying? Nah, man. Niners, Giants, San Francisco Giants, LA Lakers, baby.
Those are wonderful.
They ain't changing. And of course, Sooners before everybody.
For
But
sure.
really good to see. And then I think Hawkins, if he doesn't have bad technique on that slant, first of all, it's a touchdown because I think it's Kearney even. It's
You're talking about the one in the red
the
zone
one in the red zone. He kind
where
of
he jumps.
to it.
Yeah, that was not good. That wasn't good football.
Oh, and if he's got better technique, because he's putting film out there for people to see too. And then of course both of them airmail. Man, you see Raggins run right by, buddy. Just ran right by him.
He wasn't there.
And both quarterbacks, when they both, I think, let's see, Jackson's was to Brennan. He threw it too soon. As soon as he threw it, I was like, overthrow. Jackson's. And then as soon as Hawkins threw it, I was like, overthrow. Because you can tell how much time a receiver needs to get down the field, and it's another take. It was about another now throw, right? It's another throw. And then the throw would have been on pace, or it's more air, or it's not as far.
Let me ask you something, because I don't think those passes were necessarily. I mean, I'm sure you had them in your arsenal, were able to run them as a receiver. When a quarterback is throwing that ball, like what are the area? Obviously, you want a perfect throw, But if you've got to come back to it, like what are you thinking? What would you like on most of those plays? If maybe you're going to get an inaccurate throw, how would you like for it to play out when that quarterback is throwing that ball? I think that's an interesting question.
A little underthrown. You want the ball to be a little underthrown just because you have the ability to react and adjust to the ball when the defensive, especially if they're playing real man and he's looking at you, he doesn't see the ball until your hands go up, right? They're taught to look at eyes, and then when eyes go up, hands come down. That's their technique. And so yeah, if it's underthrown a little bit, I have the opportunity for a PI. I have the opportunity for him to run by it. I have the opportunity to adjust and kind of shake him off. You definitely don't want the ball 5 yards over your head, right? There's nothing you can do. And
Mm-hmm.
so you want the ball a little bit inside if there's no safety. By the way, did you see
Okay.
you see the ball their quarterback throws over Jaden? By the way, Jacoby, excuse me. Everyone's like, why do our corners play so bad? And we're going to talk about defense here in a second, but I just want to coach people up. If you look at the play, we're in cover 4, which means corners have deep responsibility. Safeties rob. So safeties start at 12-yard depth, but if there's an underneath route, the safeties stay and cover them. It gives you the ability to put safeties in the play, right? Because generally safeties stay on top of the play, but if you play cover 4, safeties can get into the mix, and you can see Billy or Peyton, whoever it is, they have some type of over route, and you can see the safety take that route. So the safety is not in the play. Their quarterback was smart enough to know, he read the coverage. Oh, the safeties are robbing. I can throw it in the middle. Jacoby's in great position. He's on the upfield shoulder. He's just not inside of him. The quarterback throws it where
Mm-hmm.
he isn't. And that's why the kid makes a great play. And so the same thing applies, right? If I've got someone beat and I've got them stacked, give me a little bit inside, because then I can adjust any way I want. If it's outside, I got the sideline coming. I have to turn my head, and it's a little more awkward trying to look through your face mask like over here versus look through your
Yeah.
face mask over here, right? But man, just don't air me. I'd love to see Raggins. He's a guy, I believe, 2 of those, and he's like, I'm the man. He's a guy who can beat Georgia. And that's what I think we're
Mm-hmm.
missing, right? He's a guy where if we have him run that route against a Georgia corner, he'll run by them. We've got to give him the
For sure.
confidence to believe he can. And so we got to hit on a couple of those.
Yeah, we said that. Raggins was the guy,
Yep.
Petaway seemed to be the man, but Raggins, I don't think they've brought in a guy who is as fast as Raggins. And a lot closest thing has been Hollywood Brown, right? In terms of speed and just straight running by a guy. And I think Raggins might be a little faster than Hollywood. Hollywood was just more developed. He had time. He eventually put on a little more muscle. He structurally looked the part. Raggins has just had to play pretty doggone early. And if I remember, I think Hollywood too had a year in JUCO, if I remember
Yeah.
right, or something like
He came
that.
from
So
Chicago.
so he was able to, and Raggins is a true freshman. So you kind of take that for what it is. But let's go to the defensive side of the ball, D-Mac. And here's some stuff that stands out. Granted, again, it was Maine, but you allow 14 points. Previous week it's 26 to Ole Miss, right? So Maine was 4 of 14 on third down, which is what you want. They did get 2 of 2 on fourth, but at the time, those feel a little more inconsequential. But they hold them to 251 total yards. I think that multiple times OU has held guys. This might be a season where they've had the fewest games or the most games holding opponents under 300 yards. I got to go look at that. That might be an interesting stat. 144 yards through the air, 107 rushing, held them to 3.7 on the ground. You're going to win 100% of the time when they're 3.7 and you're 7.3.
Yep.
So that was huge to flip that. And let's see, no interceptions. They did have RSJ had the fumble. Should have had the one pick outside of the roughing the passer. Reggie Powers made a great play on the ball. He's right on top of the guy. He had the roughing the passer. But let's talk D-line, D-Mac. D-line, again, they played in the backfield, felt like all game. They could not run the ball. You would still love to see the ends be able to get home a little more. That is still a thing where you just want to see the development of a guy, right? When you watch South Carolina, you watch Georgia, you watch A&M, LSU, that some of these, even Ole Miss, some of these big time teams, they all have a guy on the edge who consistently wins all the time, right? And RMT had stretches this year, but he's had a lot of games too where he's still been a little quiet. PJ seems to get caught going. I don't know what it is. Well, I mean, I have a feeling of what it is. He's just got to get that stability down. He's got to learn how to dip that shoulder a little better, have the balance, because he gets caught upfield far too much when he is trying to go in for the sack. Even today on a contained situation, I think he's hoping that he does hold the contain and forces it inside, but he was so far upfield that he was a non-factor in the play. But the defensive line as a whole still held serve. Grayson Halton had a good game. Devon Sears, even though it was late, man, he made some really big plays. That's a guy who has changed his body significantly. And Zero, David Stone, went out there. He had himself some nice plays. The D line, you can see the growth, and this is why we didn't really talk about it last podcast, but the reason you got to give Venables a chance is seeing what OU is doing on the defensive front. And this is really just now year 2, technically, right? Because that first year, recruiting wise, it was kind of, you had no chance.
He had 10 days.
Yeah, no chance. But now he is 2 cycles in of just absolute. The Jaden Jackson's going to be an NFL guy. David Stone, if he stays the course, NFL guy. Grayson Halton looks like he's turning himself into an NFL guy, right? When you start having not just 1, but 2, 3, and 4 NFL players across the line of scrimmage, DMAC, you're now getting into winning championships and playing at a high level. If they can marry that with the offense, the team's got a shot. So defensive line as a whole, what are your thoughts?
You know, it's interesting. You just named 3 NFL guys, and none of them were DNs. And so I'm gonna be hypercritical of defense today. And I intentionally said this is a game where we should dominate them on defense, and we did. And so I want to make sure I put that there first. But I watched a ton of the top 25 games today. Actually, today was one of the first times I just got to watch ball, and our defensive end can't beat tackles consistent enough to just make quarter. Because if our defensive ends could just beat tackles with speed and just make quarterback step up, we would double our sacks, because our D tackles are pushing the guard center guard gap into the quarterback pretty damn consistently. I'll talk about Stone here in a second, but it speaks to RMT. Right, I think he owns some of this. He has to own some of this and say, I've got to be better. But it's the coaching. He's got to get coached. These guys, we have too good athletes at the end position to not put pressure on Maine. And so this is what I mean by being hypercritical. If we can't get home against Maine, then that's going to be very problematic against Mizzou, Bama, and LSU. Right, like we should have had the opportunity to listen. What game was that? I want to say it was South Carolina. Maybe RMT was getting home. He just wasn't getting help, and he didn't get sacks. He was making the quarterback move off the spot, right? But I'm watching today, and I'm like, this could be the game they're licking their fingers, and they weren't. Now they played a ton of 21 and even some 31 personnel. They played 2 tight ends quite a bit. They played 3 tight ends some as well. So they were widening out the pocket, making the DNs come, and obviously having to go through more than one guy. So I do want to make sure. I haven't watched the game twice to see, oh, I get it, right? They had tight ends on both sides, but they played a bunch of 21 and some 31. I mean, they had a couple of sets in goal line where they were 3 tight ends. In fact, they score on the jet sweep out of 31. But to me, that's an area that concerns me. D tackle Jaden Jackson is an NFL dude. I'm starting to see, and you're gonna say, Mackey, I've seen it all year, and you're right. He's had flashes all year, but like what I notice about Stone versus the other D tackles, and I'm not gonna Jackson's is a 0. Like he is the proverbial dude who's gonna run stuff, get some action, penetrate, close the pocket. We're talking about Stone as a 3. If it's against, I want to say it's against South Carolina. He did something that you don't see a lot on Saturdays. Maybe you see some of the very good SEC teams do, but you see a ton on Sundays, and that's a D tackle, especially the 3 tech, they'll run upfield and really press the tackle. So, the guard has them. And the guard says, "I'll pass them if they cross face." And so he did it. I wish I could go back and find the film, and you're probably gonna go find it, but it's late in the game. And I want to say it's against South Carolina. Go watch David Stone. Go watch what his technique is. He gets off the ball. He doesn't even address the guard. He goes to the inside shoulder of the tackle. And when he does that, the guard's eyes rotate in and he gets skinny and splits the gap and he's right in the quarterback's lap. It's a beautiful sack. Now, you brought it up. You're like, "Hey, Stone had a sack." And I was like, "Yeah, that was cute." But in my mind, I'm like, "Oh, it's an afterthought sack. It's later in the game sack. It's a once kind of sack." But then I watched this game. Go
Mhm.
watch his sack. He does it again. He puts the offensive line in a position where they don't have clarity, right? Because they want to know who's their guy. And they have rules. If crossface, I look this way. Like they have rules. And in the NFL, you see it a ton, but I don't see it a ton in college, excuse me. He did it again. He had pressed the inside shoulder of the tackle. And then he cross face. I mean, he just was. I mean, and he's right in the quarterback's lap. Granted, in this one, it's a stunt. If you guys watch it, they're all stunting. I want to say weak, and then they've got the backer overlapping, and that's why the quarterback sees the backer coming. He can't escape the pocket, so the pocket just crushed him. Um, but I think he's a guy. I think next year Stone might battle with Jackson as the best D tackle. Like I think that's. By the way, I think he has a much higher ceiling than Dominic Williams. I get it. Dominic's the
Oh,
guy we paid all the
yeah.
money for. Dominic Williams is a
Yeah.
stalwart. He's a solid guy. He's going to do what you need him to do. He's going to make sure, what he's really good at is if we're running some type of stunt or blitz, he's going to occupy two guys and make sure the guy who's supposed
Mhm.
to get through gets through. But David Stone, like, makes his own plays pretty consistently with much less reps.
Game changer. He's
And
a
so
he's a game changing D tackle for sure.
and that is to me that is a natural talent that guys have, and I'm not taking anything away from Dominic. Dominic's a great player for us. I think he's about met expectations for what probably a couple more sacks, but a guy who's really helped. I mean, our run stopping is some of the best in America, and so I just think about it. If Dominic comes back and Stone is a year older, and Jackson is holding shit down, then you got Strong and you got the other kid then you got Grayson Hall. I mean, D tackle, like I feel like we'll be in a position where we can address our D tackles like some of the very best in the conference, the SEC. D end. I think we got to go and do what Ole Miss did, Texas Tech did a few years ago. We've got to go steal 264, 265-pound rush ends and have RMT be our other one. What's the kid we got from the small school? Freak athlete, Texas, one of them last year. What's his name?
Oh
He's a
my
kid.
gosh.
He's out your way. He's out in Tulsa. You had an opportunity to work with him a couple times.
Oh,
Okoye.
Okoye, Danny Okoye.
He's
Yeah,
another
yeah,
one,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
He's a project where this year it's going to be really important because Okoye is the type of player that we need Chavis to get ready. Okoye is the guy who can rush the quarterback, stick his foot in the ground, and if the quarterback leaks, go beat him to the corner.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
Ethan Downs ain't doing that. You know what I'm
No.
saying? But all due respect, what Ethan's going to do is he's going to hold the edge and not let the quarterback get outside. But Okoye can get inside, stick his foot in the ground, and be in a foot race and try to match the quarterback. We need those guys. And I think Okoye is 6'3", 6'4". Is that accurate?
He's a legit 6'4". And
Right?
he is longer even in person. Like he doesn't look like he has PJ length, but when you see him in person, you're like, oh, you're not that far off. And he's way thicker. His hips are better than PJ. He plays with better balance than PJ. He's the kind of guy who, I think you mentioned it last year, he could also be like a 3-4 backer,
Yes.
right? Like he's
Yes.
he's that type of player who
Yes.
you could flex him anywhere. Think about if you were to take a Trace Ford, but make Trace Ford just uber athletic, right? And he's that type of guy where he just, I think mentally he needed a year to develop and just be in the
100%.
system.
100%.
So I think that's why you haven't seen him. There could be a development thing too. Like
My
you'd
point
never
is,
really know.
I
Go
don't even
ahead.
care to see him this year. We've got seniors. We've got Downs who has to play. We've got Ford who has to play. We got 90 who has to play. So I'm not worried about it. What I'm saying is Chavis needs to have these guys prepped next year. The younger guys are better athletes than the older guys. We've recruited better players. We've got to develop those players. And it can't be a 4-year development like 34. We can't have him, and we get it, right? Just start playing the game. That's a different scenario. Koye, although he played at a small school, is a guy who, when you watch this film, he looked natural playing football. We looked at PJ and said, yeah, he's gonna need some seasoning. Okoye looks like a guy, get his deadlift nice and strong, get his squat to 525, get his cleans and stuff strong, and then and teach him a speed move and an underneath move, and let's go play ball. Go chase ball. See ball, hit ball, contain edge. See ball, hit ball, be physical, right? Like that's what Okoye looks like. What's the kid's name from South Carolina? Number 1 pass rusher, freshman. Their number 1 guy has a body like Okoye.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because it's built much thicker and he's more balanced than a PJ. PJ is long and looks good physically. Okoye looks like he's ready to go play football. I think that's the difference.
PJ's a high-hipped guy. When you watch PJ, he's got narrow hips and they're high, which makes it difficult to play football. You need to have a low center of gravity and you got to have a trunk. Those are the attributes that you look for. And I know you know that. You've spoken to that before.
Yeah.
But PJ's a hippie guy. He's a hip guy. His legs are longer than his upper body, and so he's got a lot to do to get where he wants. He's explosive. He's fast. If he by the way, you could be hippie and still be a dude.
Oh, for sure.
Let's not say that that's terrible. But back to the point. Chavis has the goods. He's got to develop them. His gumbo has to be seasoned correctly next year in the SEC because we've got SEC caliber dudes coming up through the ranks, and the D tackles are playing good ball. Our D tackles, I wouldn't trade our D tackles for Tennessee's. I would not.
The thought experiment, but who right now, I mean, outside of South Carolina, we know South Carolina is legit on the defensive line. Georgia, every year they've got guys, but like in the SEC, are there 3 teams that have a better interior than Oklahoma?
No. If we didn't have that interior, we would be paper mache against the run and the pass. The reason our linebackers are able to do what they do is because our 0 and our 3 and downs and run and downs in the run is a mother sucker. Downs is not he ain't out there letting folk push him around. He's not extremely explosive. Go watch Downs when he's healthy and we're down in distance. And it's exactly what I say what happened has happened. You know what happens on 3rd and medium, 3rd and long? Downs comes off the field. 34 comes on, or one of the other guys comes on. He's playing his position well. Downs plays his position well. So no, hell no. I don't think there's 2 or 3 better interior D lines in America or in the conference. I haven't looked at outside the conference as much as I.
Sure. I'm with you. I think there has to be development on that. So PJ, I've talked about it a bunch. This isn't new. If you've listened to the pod, I know we've had some new listeners past few weeks. PJ's issue is being able to play low and bend. When you see the elite guys, I compared him to Sweat, who played for the Eagles. I don't know if he's still with Philly now, but he, to me, if I were PJ, I'd say go watch his footwork. I think he played at FSU when FSU had it rolling a little bit. They are built almost identically, except Sweat was a thicker guy, kind of like a Okoye coming out of high school, but length, height, the way they move, almost identical. But when you watch Sweat, he's able to dip the hip. He's able to stick the right. If he's going, if he's on the attacking the left tackle, he's able to stick the right foot in the ground and create an angle to get back into the quarterback. He doesn't have these soft angles. They're very sharp, and he knows how to get upfield on those cuts. And that's just more power in your lower half, being more balanced. As you taught, better center of gravity. Let's move to backers, D-Mac. Lewis Carter got run, McKenzie, Stutzman, Lewis, who has played well here recently quite a bit. And we saw Samuel Masigo. He had, I believe he got washed out on the tight end around. I think that was him who gets totally washed out of the play. I think that's Kanai's man. And Kanai's the only guy who can get over and make the tackle because they just got numbers on that side. And everybody's matched up and nobody gets off a block. But I think Sam is probably the one who has the chance to make the play and just gets pushed all the way out of it on the score on the little tight end around there going left to right. But talk about backers, D-Mac. What would you see there today?
It sucks when we wear those uniforms because it's hard to see who's who. I mean, you can see Danny, he's got that big thing, and he's got the neck
and the
thing
neck
going.
roll, yeah.
But Lewis Carter and Kip and so here's something I noticed, and people, again, guys, I just trust my eyes. What's McKenzie? He go watch McKenzie's third quarter. They run some action. He's got back. He can't keep up. He can't keep up. I mean, like I'm if BV or the young DC is watching film, I guarantee you on the play, he's like, "Hey, is that a mental bust? Are you loafing or are you just not athletic enough?" I guarantee you they're going to ask him that in film because they run action and it's very clearly declared that McKenzie's got to pick up the running back leaking, and he just can't. Like he's not fluid enough to get there. And those are the types of plays where if you're watching film and you're like, okay, they rotate their backers every 2 possessions. When 11's in, we're going to run action. Hey, we're going to put our speed back on that guy because he can't keep up. And it was just something that came to mind. Kip Lewis, again, played very solid today. He and Danny had a lot of fun. You could tell those guys were having fun. They were doing one gap scheme blitzes up the A gap and the week A and the week B a ton, and you could just see those guys flowing and feeling. I saw Danny cover air too many times. It pisses me off. It pisses me freaking off. We play and they run an over route with the tight end. It's a drag, right? We call them overs because you can run them different. So it just called an over. Danny sees him and takes 2 steps and then gets his eyes back on the quarterback and leaves the guy wide open. And then I think it's South Carolina A&M. They're in the same type of defense, same type of zone. Tight end runs an over route. You know what the backer does?
What?
He sees him, turns and carries him. He eliminates him. So now the quarterback can't take him. And when someone clearly declares and takes that away, someone else can clearly declare and pull the trigger. Right. But if everybody's kind of floating, like, are you going to get him? Are you going to get him? Are you covering him? Like, you've got to, even if we run a matchup zone, you've got to like take away something. And so, of course, he doesn't. The quarterback leaks, gets about 12 yards. Or no. He throws it to the tight end. Actually, he throws it to him like a second or two later. And it's like a 14, 15-yard gain. Early in the second quarter, I want to say, maybe late in the first quarter. But as backers, I guarantee you, BV and the young DC are saying, like, we're not clean enough. And pass coverage, the middle of the field is our biggest weakness all year. And I think that's why they're running more to be honest with you. They want the safeties coming down and covering overs because back don't see it. They cover grass. And but by and large, backers played solid, obviously dominating against the run. 28, Stutz has a couple of good, run blitzes that turn into sacks. He gets a kill shot again. I told you every game he gets one. He gets a nice kill shot and they run some type of delay and he kisses the guy. By the way, he also ran through a running back with his hips. I'm like, I know coach is seeing what I'm seeing. Because, I'm like, Danny reaches, right? I always say Danny reaches.
Sure. Yeah.
I know coach is being like, Danny, stop reaching and just run through him. So there's a play. They run. It's a third down. Early in the year, go guys, go watch Houston and Tulane. On many and Auburn. Auburn's probably the worst one. On 3rd and long, they get either the first or very close to the first on running back delays. We're playing a big zone. The backers are at 5. They take a mini re-step and then they're flying out of there. And Auburn, especially, Auburn did it the most. They run that delay and it's 8, 10, 12 yards before we can even get on the guys. Today, Maine runs it. And it's Danny and it's the running back. And it was just beautiful to see him. He literally didn't like get close and try to grab. He just ran through him. I was like, damn. And like I was like, I wonder if he's been watching film and coach has been on his ass about it and say, hey man, like run through him, like trust your technique, because he did it today and you could see him. He got up and he did his whole thing. And I was like, good, that's good, because we need him to do more of that. And of course, we need to see him do it against P4 SEC running backs. But to see him do that is something that really gives you confidence. Backers played well. I want to see more of 20. I didn't see the first possession. I didn't see their touchdown. I was trying to figure out the game. I'm watching Twitter. I'm just looking at, all these, oh man, we suck. This guy's falling. BV's getting fired. All I saw was all the commentary.
Oh,
Yeah, I did.
yeah, it was bad.
Oh,
About 4 minutes was not good.
But the backers played winning football. There's some stuff left to be desired in the action and in the second level in the middle of the field and pass coverage. We also have an issue with contain. Drives me crazy. Like we're in that 30 front, and no one really declares that they're gonna force the edge. But by and large, the guys played well. By the way, the comments again, the comments are cracking. We got pauses happening and all kind of stuff going on in the comments. The comments are cooking a little bit.
Oh my gosh. Yep. Southern Cal just lost to Washington. So Lincoln's now 4-5. Man. Rough year to be a Sooner too.
And Washington got beat up by everybody. Like everybody's been kicking Washington, but
yeah, I think both went in 4-4. I'm pretty sure. I think both of them are 500 going in. So that's why it feels good to always get the W, man. Let's move to corner before we go safety. Multiple times out there today, D-Mac, it was Bowen and Jacoby. I even alluded to it on Twitter. I like the pairing. You made a comment on the throw getting inside of Jacoby and then whatever. Sometimes you just cannot defend the best corners on planet Earth. Your Darrelle Revises, your guys that you will lose sometimes, and that is just the nature of football. But do you win most of the time? I know Bowen also had some plays, man, where he set the edge really well, which that is one of the things you talked about, the runs to the outside and getting on the edge. They're missing Dolby and you're missing Gentry, because those two guys were so good at setting the perimeter as DBs and just not letting stuff, that the easy stuff to the flats, get further than the line of scrimmage. They were and Gentry is phenomenal at that. Gentry was great at getting off blocks and really a solid, sure tackler. I think having a Jacoby develop, having an Eli Bowen develop, Eli, man, he's turning himself into a guy who's going to play in the NFL. I said today, he is an ode to Schmitty, right? I know there's Schmitty hate because of injuries and things like that, but he is a guy who, if you go watch his tape in high school, he was not the most explosive corner out of his breaks, but OU saw something. And I think OU said he, as you talked about, he knows how to play football. He has a good feel for the game. And I guarantee you, they said, man, let's find, what is he squatting? What is this clean? If we get that up, if we hit these certain KPIs and markers, we're going to turn this guy into a football player. And those types of guys, if they just commit to eating, they commit to the program. If they say, I'm going to put in all the effort I can and just work my ass as hard as possible and get strong, those guys can change their body in an off season, right? There's less body to change. It's not like an offensive lineman. If you just take a guy who weighs 185 and you keep him 185, but you elevate his squat 60, 70, 80 pounds, you get his clean up. Maybe he was a guy who was maxing out at 225. Now he's maxing out at 275. Well, whatever it might be, right? Just an example. You have now changed him as an athlete. And Bowen is a testament to that. If he looks like a different player than the guy who was in high school. And between him and Jacoby, I mean, at this point, Woody has almost played himself in these games out of the rotation, unless he is just spelling a guy, because Bowen and Jacoby have so much control of the position. When they were talking about Jacoby to wide receiver, I think we touched on it, that's probably not his long-term journey. I think they did it for a game or two to shore up depth. Who knows how those conversations went, but he wasn't going to be an impactful wide receiver this year, especially seeing how many guys like Petaway and other guys who still can't have success. Jacoby wasn't going to cross over there and just all of a sudden be a guy, no matter how good of an athlete he is. There was just too much there to get brushed back up on, and he's played corner now for so long that's where he has devoted his time. I've heard things about him just from people here in the area, he is really committed to being a great player at that position. So cornerbacks, D-Mac, to talk about what you saw today. I know Dez played too. You talked about Kanai. Give your input there.
You hit it. The puppy's playing. Eli Bowen, somebody said it. He's a young honey badger to me. And I mean, I'm just being honest with you guys. I felt like that was my biggest attribute at OU. I was not the biggest, the strongest, the fastest. I was none of those. But damn it, I was the smartest guy on the field. Ass hype. Ass leech. Like I knew how to do my job. I knew everybody else's job. And if I had to go dig out a backer, I'm gonna go dig his ass out. If I gotta catch a 3rd and 8, I'm gonna catch it. Eli Bowen's the guy who just knows what to do and he gets the job done. He triggers on they run action away and then they run some type of leak. I don't know if it's a screen or if it's just like a misdirection. He triggers so damn fast and he kills it. And then they run the exact same play to the other side. And Kanai is a rolled up corner. I don't know if he's got zone or man responsibilities, but he's rolled up. Rolling up mean he's in the flats. Like he's not down the field. Kanai sees it and can't even get into the play. And I'm just like, I'm looking at him and I had been told that Kanai is a guy who, and I've said it on the pod a ton, mentally, right? The mental aspect of the game. Go watch Jacoby when he gives up that play. He's so pissed off at himself. He knows what he's supposed to do. He's fighting his ass off to get there. But guys, go watch it. Jacoby's on the upfield shoulder. He's just outside of the receiver. The quarterback throws the ball inside where he can't get to the ball. It's a beautiful throw. You can't stop it. But what I liked, and even him, by the way, he gets beat and they end up scoring the touchdown on the jet sweep. What I like is he knew what to do. And he knew what his mistake is. Does that make sense? When you make a mistake, you want to learn from your mistake. I watched Kanai make the same mistakes he's made since week 2. Some of the same mistakes he's made since last year. In fact, the only time I really was high on Kanai is when he had to play man. When he was playing man, 2nd, 3rd of last season, and we had the KU in Lawrence and some of those games, he was our best corner in some aspects of that season. But he's a guy who just doesn't understand the game quick enough. And zone responsibility. Wow. Louisville won too. So he's a guy who just doesn't understand the game in the moment of the game. Eli Bowen is just, by the way, he's better than his brother at it. I want to see Peyton play the high safety. I think Peyton's a high safety and he's having to play out of position because of Billy. I think Peyton at a high safety and then the boundary corner is going to be really salty for us. But Jacoby gave up the play, but otherwise played well. I didn't see Malone much. The numbers are hard to really see, guys. I saw Powers come in.
It's hard to tell.
I saw Powers come in and get a really good pick. He carried it perfectly. By the way, guys, he got the pick that was zone, right? I'm going to hear people say that was zone coverage. You see, he turned to the field and caught the ball like a receiver. That's zone, right? Man, he would have turned to the man and he would have fought hands. I think the future's bright. It's the same thing as the O-line. It's the same thing as we were talking about, like wide receiver, right? Like some of the same thing on the D-line. The better players are young. And someone said it earlier in the chat. Someone else said it. It'll be interesting to see if the coaches, especially offensively, who are fighting for their jobs, play the better players. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I want to see EPL going against the 3 technique of Mizzou. I don't want to see
100%.
I don't want to see, actually I like 54, but still I want to see EPL in there. I want to see Autry. If we're gonna have it be Brown or Autry, I want to see Autry in there and getting his turn, because we've seen Brown get dominated by, who do we play week 1? Temple dominated Brown. Brown got dominated last week against Ole Miss. Dominated. And so I look at those 2 corners and I think you got 2 bookends. And here's the beauty, right? There's a big if. But if Gentry comes back and you've got 3, you know what I'm saying? By the way, I freaking love 14. I think 14, personally, this is just Mackie. Remember I did this with RSJ 3 years ago. You remember, because we were doing, I was like, guys, all these other guys, it's 3. Like 3 is the
14.
one. 14 has it, guys. 14 has it. Hardy, is that his name?
Jaden Hardy, yeah.
Listen, kid's a ball player. So whoever
And he's
recruited that kid,
flexible too. I
oh,
think you could play him at safety, you could play him at corner, he is that type of player.
I like Hardy. I like the young kids. The young kids that we've seen play. I mean, obviously we like Tatum. Obviously we like Hawkins, and obviously JFA is a young guy. I like EPL. I like Autry. Like I want to see Brooks. Damn it. Let's see what the kids got cooking too, right? Like let's see what these kids got. But I heard he has a ton more baby fat and he may not be strong enough
Mhm.
yet. So he's gonna really need the off season, spring and summer to really get his strength up. Corners played well. Safeties, it's interesting. So here's X's and O's again. When we brought pressure from the secondary, guess who it primarily was this week?
Was it Eli?
Corner pressure.
Yeah, is Eli? Yeah.
We're not bringing a ton of safety pressure anymore. Like in other
Mhm.
words, we are not drawing up plays to get Billy opportunities to be explosive on defense. We're drawing up plays to get Eli opportunities to be explosive on defense. We're drawing up plays to get RSJ opportunities to be explosive on defense. And so I think that's interesting. Um,
Mhm.
I think that's interesting just from the respect of, because that's how it works. There were games where I knew I was going to be heavily involved because when we went to Monday practice, there were 3 DMAC plays. You wanted to have a play like DMAC, this your play. Cool. Screens are generally mine, you know, some throwback stuff, right? So, certain things that you knew this is my stuff. You knew there's 3 or 4 balls coming your way minimally outside of the scheme of the game. Same, you see Eli came out the edge twice. You saw RSJ come C gap alley twice. And so you're like, huh, interesting, right? They're putting those guys in position to be the guys. Another guy I think is worth mentioning since we're talking safeties is Boganowski.
Oh
Hello.
my
Can you
gosh.
do a heat seeking missile, bro? Like these are guys where when we start playing SEC like 2-3 years into the league,
Yeah.
these are guys that just fit right in. I'm
Yeah.
coming, I'm physical. And by the way, he's not like out of control. He's
Mhm.
coming in and he has, and it's what I talked about. It's what I talked about Barnes. I got on him because I said, man, he let the safety stay inside. I don't know. He let the safety banana him on that one big play he had against Houston or Tulane. Boganowski's really good at bananaing. Guys, banana is staying in inside about a half yard inside of the running back and forcing him to have to run outside, but you've got the angle the whole way. And that's why he's able to run full speed at people and go out there and make the collisions he makes because some people call it cat blitz safety or the corner off the edge, C gap. But that's why some people are able to do that because they're able to play the game and understand the angles full speed. If you can run the
Mhm.
angles full speed, then you can play at a different speed than everyone else. And so the young guys, I think Boggs could be a cheetah. Oh, like
Oh,
there's just
100%.
there's just
He's
certain
he's
things.
big too. He's a well-built, like him and Sam are built differently, and he's got a little more kind of pop explosiveness in the step, which is why he's able to play safety, and they don't have Omasigo back
Exactly.
there. But
Exactly.
but Boganowski, man, when he comes to hit you, he's ready every single game he plays, man. He's trying to light somebody up, which is great, right? I mean that's what you want. Like tonight when you're watching South Carolina play A&M, their guys look more like the young guys for Oklahoma.
I agree.
Like there's like a thickness, a speed, a um a mentality almost in the way that they are playing and look. They're all like they're cut up a little bit more. They're just more well put together. When you look at the young guys for Oklahoma, man, that is what you see.
I'm laughing
Um,
at Sooner Texas. Hold on, I'm just laughing because
yeah, I
he
saw.
was like,
Yeah,
Maggie, I love the pod and stuff. Hey man, we've done 10 times better tonight. And that was me responding to your comment last week. So we listening, brother.
facts.
I think we've
Yeah.
done it much better because I'm all numbers. I won't say any names if you allow me, but people have been giving me feedback. So
Let me go
we
back. I want to circle back to the offense real quick before we get out of here tonight.
let's do it.
So one of the things you mentioned them going back to Levy stuff. One of the things you did not see today was a lot of called plays or packages for the tight ends. Do
I
you
wasn't gonna
do
say
you do you think?
hell yeah, it was intentional. Intentional
All
as
right.
hell. Hell yeah. Yes. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? By the way, I listen. So again, all I can do is put myself in their shoes. If I'm Joe John, I'm not listening to the critics or the me's and you's, right? I'm not listening to the podcast, but like I am saying, in what world does it make sense for me to scheme up an offense where Bauer Sharp is getting 13 passes his way? Like that's by the way, if he's Kelsey or if he's Kittle, okay, or the kid from UGA last year, okay, I got you, right? The Michigan tight end, that kid's a stud. Bauer Sharp's no. Again, see, I would have said 10, but I'm gonna say Sharp is not he. In fact, I would even say 9 games into the season, he's kind of timid. He likes to look cute. You can tell he likes to look, you know what I'm saying? Which I don't mind tight ends who have a little bit of that, but guess what? Trent has some junkyard dog in him. You know what I'm saying? Andrews was a stretch. Andrews came in as a receiver and vehemently said, I do not want to play tight end. Ended up playing tight end and being a great one. But he has some dog in him. He would big boy people. We don't even talk about Gresham. Gresham big boyed everybody, right? Bauer Sharp's a guy who doesn't look like he wants to get hit, doesn't want any contact. He doesn't want to block. So yeah, I believe there was a self-study, and BV does a SWOT analysis with him and says, "Hey man, I want you to give me a SWOT analysis." And he says, "Oh shit, some of my threats and weaknesses. Well, why the hell did I scheme up so many balls to 10?" I believe that probably happened because there wasn't a lot of intentionality around getting the ball into his hands. You know what I'm saying? The intentionality was the running back or receivers, right? We were running some action stuff. Last week, a lot of the action was designed for the first read to be the tight end, and this week, it clearly that wasn't the case.
Yeah, they definitely got away from that, which was good to see. You're right, man. That they just there's a little bit of a nasty that they're still missing. That just to kind of put everything in a nutshell, I think for the offensive line, that I'll even say, I think if you have,
I'm just laughing at it.
You're good. I know.
He
I'm
was a
seeing the
quarterback.
same
I
thing.
forgot he was.
He was.
QB. Yeah,
but
he was.
man, if you take, I think at this point, 58 or Brown has shown you what he is at that tackle spot. You're about to play Missouri, who isn't, they have a really good defensive line. They have quite a few players who are still very solid NFL and or fringe NFL guys. To me, it makes no sense to not start Isaiah Autry-Dent in that game because I think you're going to know what you get from Brown. And after watching the game and then starting the rewatch, it's just two different players on two different wavelengths. That they're not even in the same. One looks like a project at the University of Oklahoma, and the other one looks like he shouldn't be playing for Oklahoma. And it's just the look and how they move. It is the way they react. It is all of that, especially at a position where, man, if you give Jackson just a little bit of time, and honestly, let's say the result is still a pressure, but because Isaiah is longer, has better feet, he gives you one extra click. That's the difference in a turnover or not. That's the difference in a touchdown or not. And that was what he was giving him, right? Like I said, he got smashed up a couple times, but if you could just have that give you that little extra advantage, I think that's huge. We didn't talk about specials. Peyton almost broke one today. Man, I was so hoping he would get into the end zone on that.
I think they got a penalty anyway, but that was sweet. He hit it.
Yeah.
He creased it.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I want to speak to Helms real quick.
Go for it.
Because the puppies, we're staying on the theme of the puppies, right? We're staying on the theme of the freshmen. I think Helms is like a sophomore, like a redshirt sophomore. He's been around for a couple of years, just been injured. Point is, I don't know what Bauer Sharp does better than him. Maybe he knows the plays better. I don't know. But by the way, Helms is bigger than him. Helms is more athletic than him. I don't know if he's straight line faster than him. Bauer Sharp might have him in straight line speed, but when we had Helms in at the sniffer position, he was the offline tight end. I got to tell you, he was sealing his edge pretty good. We're running we're running a 2-back and the crack action. So the off back is going and basically trap blocking. They're leaving that guy uncovered. They're climbing up the hole and he's trapping. Helms was blocking well, play side. And so it's just going to be interesting to see, maybe he was unsure, him being unsure and unhealthy for a long period of time, but I think he has a much higher ceiling Them both
Mhm.
87 or
Yeah.
both Roberts and Bowers. So I want to see more of Helms. If he's healthy and we're not going to play the puppy, the true freshman, I want to see Helms. Helms is a guy who's been in the program. He kind of touched it. By the way, that touchdown he caught was not easy. The ball gets tipped and you see he had his hands out. But he got it. That's not an easy catch to make. I want to see more of him if he can stay healthy and he I mean I would say Bauer Sharp probably has the most busts. I don't know all the O line busts. Who Lord knows, especially Mentalos. But I think he has the most busts out of all the other starters, not O line.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, okay, can Helms do much worse? I want to see. I want to see more of him. I want to see more of him.
Yeah. I think that'll be as we get into the week and see what they're going to do. I think that'll be the story for the game is which young guys, do 55, 73, 18, like who is going to get the chance to play and play significant snaps, or do they roll the same guys out there? And to me, could be the difference in winning and losing a game, depending on how long you take to make some of those decisions. And OU's got to get another win, DMAC. What we said it at the top of the show. You got to get to 6. 6 will guarantee you a spot. And then, man, if you get the win here today, it does not matter how you look against Missouri. You go up there and you get the win. All of a sudden, man, you feel like maybe you could at least hang in there against LSU and Bama. You get some confidence going. And OU still they have players, they have a defense that's going to keep you in the games. So, Alabama hasn't been Alabama this year, right? LSU looks a lot better. And LSU looks like they might be, especially in Death Valley, might be the tougher out with how they've played of late than Alabama. And Alabama's also in Norman. But at the end of the day, man, if you go up here and you win in Missouri, you got some confidence about you. And now it's time to, just go get it done. Guys, before we get out of here, make sure like the video, subscribe, share us on X. If you're on here right now on your phone or on the page, go share the podcast right now. As always, we're presented by OU Insider, OUinsider.com. You got to get yourself a membership over there. Recruiting news, team news, and the like. We were having a conversation earlier tonight with Parker and Brandon. Just interesting stuff. That's all I'll say. But man, it is the best content. DMAC's got the 10 thoughts. I'm doing zooming in, taking a look at each individual player, at player performances, what they're doing, what they're not doing, just giving you the structure. The 10 thoughts, guys, it gets so much interaction over there on the board. Everybody likes it. There's people who completely disagree with DMAC and people who absolutely are just right on board with everything he says. So it creates it's fun. So if you're not a member of OU Insider, OUinsider.com, go over there for recruiting news, team news, the coaching search. Promise you, it is where you want to be. It is the site that you want to be a part of. But right now, share the pod, hit the like button. Make sure to tell everybody about the Barry and Mack show. We got 130 right now live watching. I'm sure we'll get quite a few more. It was good to do this for a win, DMAC. Haven't had many of those here lately. So it always makes the pod a little sweeter, a little better. Before we get out of here today, as always, as tradition to our new listeners, DMAC, closing thoughts for tonight.
Yeah, I got a couple of things actually. Number one, people have been giving me my flack for my OC. You know what I'm saying? My OC recommendations. Some of y'all favorite OC didn't look too hot this Saturday. So I don't want to hear no more Penn State. Sorry, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear no more Texas. There's a whole bunch of schools that y'all was telling me that we need to go ahead and deal. No.
What did Georgia do today? 34.
Enough to win against a quad. By the way, Florida played well today. Florida brought some juice.
Yep.
So the OC deal. I salute to Joe John. If I'm Joe John, it's just 1 week at a time. I think Joe John didn't do anything to hurt his prospects today. But I'm still a guy who says I don't know who the OC is. And if you guys watched our pod live 2 weeks ago, we literally came up with Coley on the spot. I was like, yo, I would want somebody with this skill from this. Like, we didn't do research and say we want him. We were just kind of processing through. But guys, we need somebody who knows what they're doing. We need somebody who has SEC pedigree. BB just can't risk. He can't risk Pittsburgh's coach coming in and being excited at the trophy case. coming in and being excited because we got 5 natties, 6 natties, 7 natties from the past. He can't risk it. He needs somebody who's going to come in and say, yo, that 58 Brown, you got to sit his ass on the bench. We got to portal him out of here. That running back who can't catch the pitch, but he's not SC. Like, we need the guy to come in and do that. By the way, we need that. Bob Stoops came in and said, Mackey, that ain't it. If you can't do this, and this, you can't play receiver for him. By the way, Barry, I'm not even exaggerating. He was like, guys, you can't finish Jerry Schmidt's workout. If you can't finish the workout, you can't play for me. Guys, you can't do 1,000 crunches. If you can't do 1,000 crunches, you can't play. Mackey, if you can't catch this curl route when the safety's driving on you, you're not going to see the field. Like, I understood the expectations, and I was like, bet, let's go get it. And so I'm looking at the OCs, curious to see where we land. Like I said, Joe John, keep one head down grinding, one foot in front of the other. Who knows what happens if you stacks? Joe John stacks victories against Missouri, Bama, LSU going into a bowl game.
Even if these games are close, but let's say you go get 35 against LSU, or you go get Bama, maybe it's a shootout and you get into the I don't think so, but like, if he goes and does that and he puts points up on, if they break 30 against Mizzou, I think he's going to be deserving a look. And at the very least, again, he's auditioning for everybody else.
Yep.
If he goes and gets 30 in these next 3 or close, he is going. I mean, look at Penn State is averaging 33.3 points a game, and they were talking about him today on game day like he's one of the best OCs in the game, and he's done well.
They didn't score no points from inside the 5-yard line on 2 possessions, and on another possession they threw a pick. I don't want to know. And they did that. By the way, they literally showed them. Remember last week I was saying they were putting this lineman in motion and having him wham block? Yep. Did you see that they were showing he wasn't blocking nobody. He was going in motion and doing nothing. They were playing 10 on 11 and he was ineligible to catch the ball. I was like, that was stupid. So they were making fun of his scheme because here you are having a guy who you have going in motion. He's ineligible to catch the ball and he was blocking nobody. So back to my final thoughts.
Go ahead.
OCs, I'm excited. I want a guy with SEC pedigree. God, could you imagine if we got my man out of UO? Oh. And by the way, my boy Junior didn't respond to me. I texted him. I said, hey, bro, 1.9 mil, would you come? He didn't respond. Like, God dang it. But they're out there, number 1 team in America, handling business. I'd love if we could get Stein from there. That'd be amazing. Some of the other names that have come up, I just want somebody with pedigree there. The other thing is the freshman. I think BV does himself a lot of justice by getting those freshmen in. Letting those guys gain confidence. Again, I liken to JFA last year, right? We all felt a little more comfortable and we were saying to ourselves, JFA is not a real freshman because he got some meaningful snaps later in the season, obviously in the bowl game. We need that for EPO. We need that, right, for Jacoby. We need that for Autry. We need that for Helms. We need that. Those guys need to play a hefty amount of snaps. And so looking forward to that. And then last but not least, I got a little cousin. He goes to Louisville High School. He's class of 27. BV was at the game again. So it was Louisville versus Denton Guyer. Okay. Louisville versus Denton Guyer. And by the way, Brandon, those guys showed up. Apparently, Sark came on a helicopter. My little cousin, class of 27, he got offered by OU when I took him up for Houston. He was the MVP of the game. Kid was out there handling business. So DJ Martin III, his mom's a Mackey, his dad's a Martin. His dad is a Super Bowl champion defensive back. He's got all the genes you need to go be great. He's a sophomore playing varsity. If you check him out, we working on him. So I got to see how his experience was. He went to the game today. They played last night, and then he went up to Norman with his dad today. But looking forward to Lil Cuz continuing the tradition. Texas is going to have him up, I believe, in a week or two. And then he's got Vandy. He's got good grades, so Vandy's going to have him up before the end of the year. But no, guys, we appreciate you guys. We got a good group. Barry, this is what I'd like to do. I would like to do it. Let me ask you guys this. Post in the Zoom, post it in the I said Zoom, post it in the chat if you guys would like
That's
this.
fun.
Would you guys like me to do a chalk talk and explain to you some defensive and offensive concepts, literally just on a whiteboard? I can explain to you how things work and what things look like versus zone, what things look like versus pass, and then I can also do very similar to some of our play design, right? Say, hey, this is a play we run. I'll draw it up on the chalkboard first and show you, and then we'll show you a play in the respective game that matches it, so you guys can kind of start to understand the scheme. Is that some stuff you guys would like to see? All right. So B, what I would like to do is Tuesday or Wednesday. Which I just want to do a chalk talk. So let's just bring back a
Let's
chalk talk.
get it.
Let's do it once a week. I'll draw it up on the board so people can see very simply how things work. Cover 4, cover 2, some of our what some of the air raid principles, some of the levy principles, whatever. And then we can see how those impact actual play. So that's going to be something we'll try to queue up. I'm not the most technologically advanced individual, so bear with me. But I think
We're getting you right.
yeah. Be get me right. Guys, if we do support it, share it. You know what I'm saying? Let folks know we out here getting it in. But appreciate you guys, man. You guys do a great job of supporting us. And somebody said it's a passion project, man. We have fun. This is a great job.
Facts.
Great time for me.
Man, speaking of passion projects, a couple of shout outs tonight before I get out of here. One shout out, man, to the Oxley Nature Center up here in Tulsa. Man, they guys, I don't know if y'all know, I'm big on the hiking stuff, getting outside, staying healthy, doing that. The Oxley Nature Center is phenomenal. They had a couple people working up there over the weekends who took the time to talk about the leaves and the tracks. They gave us a little sheet with like the deer prints and the coyotes, and I learned the difference between like a red oak and a white oak and all this stuff. It was so cool. So shout out to them. Also, shout out, I got it posted in the back right there. It's all mirrored up. To my DECA teacher. So Liz Wright.
What's a deck? What's a
sports
deca?
So
What,
DECA, for those who don't know, for those who do not know,
I don't know.
Distributive Education Clubs of America. But it is what they actually call it is they changed the name because nobody knew what that meant. It's an association of marketing students. So when I was in high school, this had the biggest impact on my life trajectory, what I wanted to do, how now I'm an entrepreneur, I'm managing my own business and doing different things. It is a club that, especially if you have a good teacher, man, they the teachers, Liz, Mrs. Wright, Miss Wright, she it's sports marketing, right? So you go in there, you learn all of the ins and outs of managing a business, entrepreneurship, and it's a class that you want to stay in for 4 years. Jinx still has it, other schools still have it, but basically you go in, your first year as a freshman is intro to sports marketing, your next year is entrepreneurship, your third year is sports marketing, decision making, and all these different things. So it's really cool. When I was in high school, I competed in events. So this is the pillowcase is actually from an event we did in Atlanta, where me and my partner Dan, we went up there. We won the event, or we got in the finals. There's multiple winners, but basically they go in there. You go into a boardroom, and 30 minutes before you go, they hand you a packet of like information on like a franchise, like a sports franchise. They'll say, "Here's the financials. Here's what they're doing. You got 30 minutes. Come up with a pitch. Go in there." Pitch the people who are going to spend the money to make the franchise better on why you need to be running the franchise. And it's cool, but it gives students a chance who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to get into business and do that. It really subjects you to some really cool experiences. You get to travel, go do things, because that wasn't an option I had as a kid. We just didn't have a ton of money growing up, but stuff like this, got to see different places. So Miss Wright, I got it up in the back. I thought it was only fitting. I was kind of going through some old stuff and found it. So fantastic stuff, man. But guys, as always, thank you all for supporting the pod. Me and D-Mac, very much appreciative of everything. Make sure to hit the like button, go subscribe, and make sure you go over to OU Insider, OUInsider.com. Check it out. As always, it's the Barry and Mack Show. Thank you all for tuning in. We will see you soon.